Hands where I can see them. The command cracked through the air like a gunshot. Just seconds earlier, Marshall Bryant, a well-dressed black man in his early 30s, had quietly stepped up behind a rough-looking white man counting a wad of bills. Without warning, Marshall grabbed the cash by force and shoved it into his right pocket. The white man spun around. "Hey, give that back," he shouted, attacking Marshall. The two struggled as Marshall tried to fend him off. "Leave me alone. Get off me," Marshall said firmly, still clutching the cash. Just then, a white police officer in his late 20s came running, hand on his gun. "Police! Put your hands up," he shouted. The white man immediately raised his hands in fear. Marshall exhaled in relief. "Officer, thank goodness that you're here. This man—" "I said, put your hands up," the cop barked at Marshall, cutting him off. Marshall, shocked but composed, slowly raised his hands. "Okay, look, my name is Marshall Bryant. I'm a state senator, and this man, he stole money." "Shut up! Now turn around and put your hands behind your back," the officer yelled. Have you ever witnessed someone get condemned on sight without even being given the chance to tell their side of the story? Before we go further, what country or city are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where you're tuning in from. And if you believe no one should ever be judged by their skin color, hit that like button and subscribe to Story Arc for more true stories that matter. In shock at how the cop was handling the situation, Marshall calmly complied. He glanced at the white man, who was now visibly smirking. Marshall turned around and put his hands behind his back. The cop stepped forward, grabbed both of Marshall's hands, and pinned his face to the wall. "You've got the wrong guy," Marshall protested, trying to de-escalate the situation. He added quickly, "Call Lieutenant Hayes. He'll tell you who I am. He's a friend. Ask him I said shut up," the officer barked again, cutting him off. He turned to the white man. "All right, now explain what really happened." The man pointed at Marshall's pocket. "He's lying. This man ran up to me and snatched my money, and it's right there in his right pocket." But Marshall, still pinned to the wall, said, "No, that's not the truth. He's the one who stole money from a grocery store owner." The officer forcefully pressed Marshall's head against the wall. Marshall cried out in pain. "You're hurting me." "I tried to handle this the easy way," the cop said coldly. "Now I'm going to have to charge you with resisting arrest on top of the other charges." Marshall continued to protest, voice strained. "Please, just hear me out. This is just a big misunderstanding." The officer ignored him and reached into Marshall's right pocket. Pulling out the cash, he smirked. Well, what do we have here?" "Just like I said," the white guy said sharply. "That's my money." "It's not his," Marshall said firmly. The cop looked at him with disdain. "You expect me to believe someone like you is walking around with this much cash? What are you, a drug dealer?" "No," Marshall replied. "I told you I'm a state senator, and that money belongs to a grocery store owner." The cop scoffed. "And I'm supposed to believe a thug like you? You people are all the same." Marshall blinked in disbelief. "You people?" he repeated. "You should never judge a person by their skin color," Marshall added, voice steady despite the pain. "Save it for the judge," the cop sneered. "I'm putting you behind bars." The officer then handed the cash over to the white guy. "I believe this belongs to you," he said, his tone softening. Then he added, "I apologize for the trouble, sir." "Thank you so much, officer," the white man replied with a smirk, clutching the money. The cop started walking away while holding Marshall with his hands cuffed tightly behind his back. Just then, frantic shouting echoed from behind. "Officer, wait!" Mr. Simon, a black, elderly man who owned the small grocery store just around the corner, came running as fast as his legs would allow, out of breath and clutching his side. "Let him go. You've got the wrong guy," Mr. Simon gasped. He pointed straight at the white man, who now looked visibly shaken. "This is the man that you should arrest." The cop stopped, frowning in confusion. "What do you mean?" he asked, gesturing toward Marshall in cuffs as he added, "It's clear this man's a criminal." Mr. Simon shook his head sharply. "No, he's not. He's a hero." The young officer's brow furrowed. "What are you talking about?" Mr. Simon, still trying to catch his breath, stepped closer. "Here's the thing." Then he began explaining exactly what had happened 30 minutes earlier, speaking his own words. "Marshall is one of my regular customers," Mr. Simon said. He came into my store this morning just to buy a single pack of gum before heading to work. We chatted a little about how business has been slow lately. Then he handed me a $20 bill for the gum and even told me to keep the change. After that, he walked out like he always does, calm and polite. Mr. Simon's tone hardened as he pointed again at the white man. That's when this guy, who'd been hanging around the store, came storming up to my counter with his hand shoved inside his jacket. He said, "Listen, old man, give me all your cash, or else." Mr. Simon's voice trembled as he continued. I thought he had a weapon. I was terrified. In fear and panic, I just did what he said. I begged him, "Okay, please don't shoot." But he barked back at me. "Everything. I want everything. Quickly." He kept threatening me with his hand in his jacket. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt helpless, forced to comply out of fear for your life? What would you have done if you were in Mr. Simon's shoes? Shaking his head, Mr. Simon's voice broke as he remembered his plea. I gave him all the cash I had. "Please, that's everything I've got. I have children at home." The white man had only sneered. "Give it here. I don't care about your kids." Then he snatched the money and revealed what was inside his jacket. Not a gun, but a banana. "Thanks, old man," he said as he runs away. Mr. Simon's hands shook slightly as he went on. When I saw what he had hiding in his jacket was just a banana, I couldn't believe it. I shouted, "What, a banana?" and ran after him. He bolted out of my store with all my cash and chased him screaming for help. His voice steadied as he looked straight at the young officer. That's when Marshall saw me. As I was about to run past him, he stopped me and asked, "Simon, is everything okay?" I pointed toward the thief who was already getting out of sight and yelled, "No, that man just robbed me." Mr. Simon gestured at Marshall, still standing there cuffed. Marshall didn't hesitate. He told me, "Get back inside. Call the police. I'll try to catch him. Go." Then he took off running after the thief on foot. He shook his head, his voice heavy with emotion. He caught him. He wrestled him down and took back my money, even though he didn't have to. And now you've got him in cuffs while the real criminal stands there smirking. The young cop's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. Mr. Simon reached into his apron pocket. And just so there's no doubt, I've got it all on video. He held up his phone. The white man's smirk disappeared instantly. His eyes darted left and right, searching for an escape. Suddenly, he tried to bolt. But another officer appeared from around the corner. A tall, broad-shouldered white man in his 40s, dressed sharply in a lieutenant's uniform, as stepped directly into the thief's path. "You're not going anywhere," the officer barked, grabbing the man by the arm before he could flee. As he looked up, his eyes landed on the scene, Marshall cuffed and the young cop still holding him. Lieutenant's voice sharpened. "Collins, what on earth are you doing?" The young cop froze. "Lieutenant Hayes?" he stammered. Hayes's eyes narrowed at the sight of Marshall in cuffs. His voice cut like a blade. "That man is State Senator Marshall Bryant." Lieutenant Hayes' glare didn't waver as he stepped closer, his voice booming with authority. "All right, Collins, take those cuffs off him right now and place them onto him." Hayes barked, gesturing sharply at the white man he still held. Collins's face went pale. "Yes, sir, right away," he said quickly. His hands trembled as he unlocked the cuffs from Marshall's wrists and walked over to the real thief, snapping them onto his wrists instead. Hayes turned to face Marshall directly, his tone softening. "Senator, I deeply apologize. This is so embarrassing." Marshall adjusted his sleeves calmly, even after all that humiliation. "It's fine, Lieutenant," he said, voice steady. "It's unfortunate these types of things happen all the time." Collins looked down, ashamed, and held out the recovered cash to Hayes. "I'm sorry, sir," he muttered, barely above a whisper. "I didn't know he was a senator. I thought he was a criminal." Hayes's eyes snapped toward him sharply. "Why? Because he's black?" His voice cut like a whip. "Remember your training, Collins. You're never supposed to judge someone by the color of their skin, and just wait until the commissioner hears about this." Collins swallowed hard, his face flushed with shame. "I'm so sorry, sir," he stammered. Then he turned toward Marshall, desperate to make things right. "And Senator, Save it," Hayes cut him off, voice firm. "Have you ever seen someone's prejudice blow up in their face this badly? What do you think Marshall should do after being treated like this?" Hayes turned toward Mr. Simon, holding out the cash. "I believe this belongs to you." Mr. Simon's face broke into a grateful smile. "Thank you so much." Hayes shook his head and gestured toward Marshall. Well, don't thank me. Thank him. He's the real hero. Marshall stood tall and silent, the weight of the moment clear to everyone watching. If you believe it's time people were judged by their actions and character, and heroes like Marshall deserve respect, hit that like button and subscribe to Story Arc for more powerful, true stories that matter.